verse 7. Imlo yimatzeh aganav, and if you do not find the thief, v'nikrav ba'al bayis Elohim, and the person who is watching the property should go to the court, and that he did not stick his hand onto and misuse the property. Rashi says we're talking about a watchman here, so imlo yimatzeh aganav, uva shomer hazeh shu ba'al bayis, and the watchman who is basically, when it calls Baal Bayis, usually refers to the owner, but here it refers to because he was the Baal Habayis, he was in charge of the property. V'nikrav Baal Habayis Elohim, and he comes to the court. Rashi says El Adayanim. The word Elohim here does not mean God, although many times in Torah means God, but here it means the judges. Ladunim zeh. He has to swear that he was given the property as a deposit, as a pledge. He has to make sure that he didn't misuse it. And so what does he have to? I'll call Devar Pasha, I'll Shor, I'll Chamor, I'll Sel, I'll call Veda, Sher Yomar Ki Uzeh, Ad Elohim Yavod Devar Shneim, Asher Yershiun Elohim Yishalem Shneim L'Reyehu. So this is a very important law. For every sinful word, for an ox, a donkey, for a lamb or a garment, for every lost object, about which he says it is this, he should come to the court, both of them, and whatever the court finds guilty should pay twice to his friend. What are we talking about here? Rashi says, I'll call Devar Pesha, Sheimatzei Shakar Mishloto. We're referring here to somebody who's a liar. He says it was stolen, but now the witnesses come and say, you're the one who stole it. And the court will find him guilty. Then so the court is teaching us that if somebody who makes a claim about a deposit that was in his care, Rashi says, and says that it was stolen, he has to pay double. When does he pay double? Bisman shenishpa, when he swears that it was stolen, and then the witnesses come. That's what it means. V'nikrav ba'al bayis Elohim, and then the person comes to the court, and the word v'nikrav means an oath. Rashi says, does it mean an oath, or maybe it means just coming to the court? So since he comes to the court, the kafar omar nignava, and he denied the claim saying it was stolen, kefil and bo edim shall be other. Then if witnesses come, he pays double. Well, one it was not under oath. If he just comes to the court, when is he under oath? Not on the Bible, but no, there's words. He says, I swear by the name. Yeah. Well, actually, it was often by the Bible. They would make you hold a Torah sometimes and take their oath. So it says here shlichus yad, which means you put your hands on it, and it says below shlichus yad. So it means to say it's only if he does it under oath. If it's not under oath, it doesn't count. That's the point. Asher yomar ki uzeh. What does that mean? According to the literal explanation, it means that the witnesses say that what he swore about, it's actually with you. You claim it was stolen, it's actually with you. Until the court, both of them will come, and they have to investigate the witnesses. And if they're kosher, then they will make this guardian guilty, and he has to pay double. But if they make the witnesses guilty, then they're the ones who have to pay double. And so therefore, but the rabbis learned from the words ki huzeh to teach us that you're only obligated to take an oath if you're in a case of moda b'miktsas. Now, what are you obligated to take an oath if it's a partial admission? If the guy makes a claim against you that says you owe $100, he says, no, I only owe $50, that's called a partial admission, or $60 or $80. It's partial admission. And under those circumstances, you have to take an oath. That's the law of the moda b'miktsas, is a biblical oath that's required. So this is the case of shlichus yad on your deposit. Next case. Yitain ish arayehu, if a person will give to his friend a chamor, oshor, oseh. Person will give to his friend a donkey or an ox or a lamb or any animal to guard. Umeis, and then the animal will die, or it'll break, onishba, or it'll be captured. Ein roeh, but there's no witness. So what happened here? What's the case? The first guardian was talking about a person who was what's called, there are four guardians in the Torah. There's the shomer chinam, the person who watches for free. He's only responsible for negligence. Then there's the person who's paid to watch. Then there's the person who's a borrower, and there's a person who's a renter. So the first passage was talking about an unpaid watchman, a shomer chinam, and so therefore he's exempt for theft. That's why he claims it was stolen, so he'd be exempt. So that's why he says v'guna mibeis ish. So he's exempt. If a person's watching it for free, he's exempt if it was stolen. But this passage is talking about a case where it was a shomer sachar, meaning he's a paid watchman. And so therefore, he's not exempt for theft. He's only exempt for an accident. Like, for example, if it drops dead, or if it was injured on its own, or if it was captured by bandits, that's called an accident. And there is no witness to testify. Then Shvuas Hashem tiyeh bein shneim. He has to take an oath, and he has to take an oath that he didn't misuse the property, and then the owner will take it back, or he has to accept it, and he doesn't pay anything. Rashi says, Yishava shakenu dvarav. He has to swear that it's accurate. That he didn't misuse it. That if he misappropriated it and then an accident occurred, he's responsible. And the owner shall accept the oath. And then he doesn't have to pay. So this is called a shvuas shomrim. So we've seen just now two of the biblically mandated oaths. One is the case of partial admission, and now we have a case of a watchman's oath. It's called the shvuas hashomrim, the watchman's oath. Now we go on. V'im ganov yiganev me'imo, and if it will be stolen from him, yishalem ubalav, then he has to pay to the owner. So when does he pay? If it was stolen from him. Im ganov yiganev me'imo yishalem ubalav. If it will be stolen from him, he has to pay it to the owner. No Rashi on that. Im tarofi taref, but if it was just torn apart by another animal, Yaviu aid, hatrefo ishalim. So he doesn't pay if it was torn apart by another animal, as long as he has witnesses. Rashi says, Yaviu aid, he has to bring witnesses that it was torn apart beyond his control, and then he's exempt. Hatrefo ishalim. It doesn't say the trefa will not pay, but the trefa. Yesh trefa shum mishalim. Sometimes there's a trefa that you pay, and sometimes you don't. If it was torn apart by a cat or a fox or a similar animal, then he has to pay. But if it was torn apart by a wolf or a lion or a bear or a snake, then he doesn't pay. And if you're going to say, why are you ruling this way? Sharei katuvu meis o nishbar o nishba. Just like death, you can't be saved. Also, injury, you can't be saved. So he couldn't have saved the animal under these circumstances. We're up to chapter 22, verse 13. And now we're going up to the third type of watchman. We've seen already the person who watched for free. We've seen the case, the person who was hired to watch. The person who watches for free, just to remind everybody, that person is exempt, except if it was negligence. Person who was hired to watch, he is going to be responsible even for theft, but he's exempt if it's a total accident. And now we have the third case, the law of the borrower. Now we have the case of the borrower, and if the borrower, if he's borrowing it and it breaks or dies and the owner is not with him, he has to pay. What? He pays under these circumstances. What?
It's not good to be borrowed.
Well, not everything. Not everything. There's two exemptions to the borrower. You see what it says in the Torah. Well, just read the next verse and then we'll read it together. In Bala of Imo will Yishlim, if the owner was with him when he borrowed it, then he doesn't pay. Im Sachirhu Babischaro. If he's a hired worker, then it's going to come with his rental. So basically, that you see the exemption right there, that if the owner is with him. So if I borrow your car and or if I borrow your lawnmower and you're with me and it breaks then I'm not responsible. Rashi says, but there's another exemption. We'll see. It doesn't say in the text, but you'll see that it's there. What's the other? And it comes to tell us about the borrower that he's responsible for the damages. Ba'alav enimo. In Ba'alav shall shor enu mashol b'moachto. If the owner of the ox is not with the borrower, then he's going to be exempt. But in Ba'alav imo, if the owner is with him, bein shu ba'osa moacha, bein shu b'moacha acheres, whether he's with that work or a different work, imo b'shash she'ela, if he's with him, eno tzarach lios imo b'shash shviro misa. If he's with him at the time of the borrowing, as long as he's there, he doesn't need to be with him when it broke. So there is another actual case in which he's exempt, which Rashi does not point out right here. Does anybody know what that is? There's another exemption. That's called Mesa Machmas Malachto. If it dies in the normal manner of you doing its work. So for example, you borrow an ox to plow a field, and the ox, as part of its process of plowing the field, has a heart failure, then you're not responsible. If you say, can I borrow your car to drive to Silver Spring, and as part of that effort, the car battery, whatever, gives out, then we're going to say that you're not responsible under those circumstances. Understand what I'm saying?
Died just from heart attack, or because you
Well, you'd have to say that the person, we have a general principle, the burden of proof rests upon the person who wants to get the money. So if they want to get your money, the burden of proof is on them. Yes, Rabbi Yosef.
I just wanted to ask if you know that your car or if your ox can't plow like a difficult field, or let's say there was a drought for 3 years, and you think that maybe he's weak, and you still borrow it, and then it dies. Is the guy still responsible? Or if you told him, don't do too much, or?
So look, when you want to go into the details of all these cases, that's what we're going to get to in Baba Metzia, and you have a whole chapter devoted to these cases. And then Sadi Hey, you're going to get to all these cases. So I don't have the Gemara in front of me to go through all these cases, but if you used it in a way in which he specifically told you not to use it, then of course you're going to be responsible. So that's just some general guidelines here. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, hold on one second. I just got Okay, I wanna, hold on, I'm gonna put it on pause for a moment. And I wanna just say, I have something really big to share with everybody. Wait, I'm gonna stop the recording and share with everybody. So, we continue with our. Okay, we continue. So. It says the next verse. If the owner was with him, or if he is hired, then Bab is Charo. So now we're talking about a case, let's say it's a rental. Hello, Reb David. How are you doing today? So now we're talking about a rental fee. So what's your responsibility if you rent the car? Let's say you rent the car and a truck sideswipes you, and God forbid, but you're not in the car. And when they asked you at the checkout counter, do you want to get your insurance? You say, no, I don't want to pay the $8 a day. And now the truck smashed into your car. So how do we view the renter? Do we view him as the borrower or as the hired worker? What's the, so the Rashi says as follows. Im sachir here, eina shor, eino shaul, ela sachor. The ox is not borrowed, but it's rented. Let's say he got it through rental. So he doesn't get all the benefits. So because by renting it, it's being used, goes to the owner. The Engel Mishpat Shol is chayav ba'onsin. The lo pirish madino. So he's not like a borrower, but the Torah doesn't to be responsible for accidents. But yeah, we have two other watchmen. Is he like the person who borrowed it for free? Or is he like the person who's paid to watch it? So for is he like the person who's doing it for free, in which case he's only responsible for negligence? Or is he like the paid worker who's responsible for theft? The sages argue. Meir says Meir says he's like the watchman for who's unpaid watchman. Rabbi Yehuda says he's like a shomer sachar. Okay. Now we go on. Now we're up to the next verse. And now we move from the watchman to cases of seduction. Just changing topics abruptly. Hold on to your seatbelts for this one. ish bisua asher lo orasav v'shachavima. So the shachavima mahor yimarenu lo isha. Let's say a man will seduce a virgin who is not married, and he'll lie with her. He has to pay the marriage price for her as his wife. Rashi says, "V'chiyafate medaber aliba ad shemaslo." He speaks to her heart until she listens to him. He seduces a virgin girl, obviously without the permission of her family. Now, today, these happens every day, but in the time of the Torah, it wasn't accepted. Mahor yimarena. He has to determine a marriage price. Kimishpat ishla ishto. He has to write a ksuba and marry her, assuming that the family approves. Let's say the father says, I'm not going to give her to you as a wife. Then kesef ishkol kamor abasulos. Hello, Hobbs, join us here. So then he has to give her the price, kamor abasulos, like the price of a virgin.
But at that point, she would not be marriageable, right?
Well, she would be marriageable, but she wouldn't be as desirable a candidate, all things being equal.
Zero.
Well, the point is, no, the bridal price for a virgin in today's modern ksuba, which is really mostly symbolic, a woman who gets married, if the ksuba is if it's her first marriage, then we assume she's a virgin, and we write her a ksuba of 200 zuz. But if she's formerly married, or if she insists on declaring, then we say that she is we give her half that amount.
What's a zoo's worth in today's market? Do you actually give a price as part of the marriage?
Well, 200 zuz, it's not clear, but most people
Salary for a
assume-
year for a
One
single
second.
woman.
One second. So most people assume that it's what is necessary to support her for a year. So most people usually say it's like it's the equivalent of around $30,000. Or $30,000. It's not that much, Jeff. That's very little when you think about what most people would get in divorce settlements when they divide up assets. They would be getting significantly more
Has to give that to the wife.
if they divorce.
Okay.
If the marriage terminates on her death or on his death or divorced. But that's assuming that's a standard amount and it can't go less than that. But you can imagine that the father would insist, or the family would insist, well, if you want to marry my daughter, you have to give her a ksuba of 1,000,000 zuz. So you could put whatever. And the ksuba is basically a bond that the wife is the main bondholder, the first in line bondholder. And that can't be replaced by anything else. What?
Who gets the bride price?
The money is the woman's.
The bond. Really?
The woman is the bondholder.
The bondholder.
She's the bondholder. She gets the price.
And she holds the bond.
She holds the bond.
Only valuable if there's a divorce or a death.
No. It's a bond. So it has value even if it's, Hobbes could tell us this, because we did this in the Daf Yomi. It has value even without it being a divorce and out of being a death, because there is a bond market. You say, how much would you pay for the right to this bond if the wife would, how much would you pay for the possibility that the husband will die first and then she'll collect it? And so she could theoretically sell the bond on the bond trading market at that point.
Right. Rothschild is worth a lot.
Well, it depends what the bond is. Okay, let us stop here so we could dive in mincha. Okay, hold on.